welcome to the Icons with Rick Horrow, where we sit down with the leader in the world of sports. This is my home office, but youth football is kicking off all across the country, and we take the opportunity to talk to executives with Pop Warner football. Let's get started with the executive director, John Butler. Back with you at the Disney Wide World of Sports, the home of Pop Warner's Super Bowl event. Lights up this place first week in December. I know that, been on the board of Pop Warner, an incredible organization, stewardship by its executive director and my friend John Butler. How are you?
Great.
Good, awesome. Well, there are a lot of things about John Butler we don't know. We're going to know him now. Your mom was actually in the sports business, and that's how you got involved in the sports business early on. Talk a little bit about that.
Yep, one of my uncles, my mother's brother, invented the first ever commercially marketed blocking sled in 1932. And he was involved. He was a college line coach and had other businesses going, so he'd never take a head coaching job. But early on, my mother took over running the business, bought out my uncle, and I eventually bought her out.
He was a coach at Penn. You were exposed to some high-quality, top-quality football then.
Oh, yeah.
Did you think you were going to end up playing or administrating? What was your goal?
I was always interested in playing. There was no doubt about that. When I finished up college, I coached high school football for 7 years, which I really enjoyed. But as I was running in the company, it gets old for the employees when you're leaving at 2:30 every afternoon, except when you leave earlier. So
interesting. So you decided that the career was, frankly, to build and perpetuate an incredible brand, Pop Warner. Of all of the things that Pop Warner is, being a wonderful, sustaining brand is probably one of the best things you have. So how have you kind of coveted it and embraced it?
Well, it's certainly a totally different thing. When I owned my own business, if I made a good decision or a bad decision, the responsibility was just me. And when it was time to sell the company, I sold it. Pop Warner is, first of all, it's a nonprofit. It's not a company that can be sold. It is just an organization, a wonderful self-perpetuating organization, now 90 seasons old.
The 90th anniversary, you were with Mickey there as well?
Mickey and Minnie.
Same Mickey and Minnie, you think? Or you think
I told Mickey he looked great for 90 years old.
For 90 years old, yeah, probably. And he said the same thing for you, probably. It was the same answer. As you build the brand, though, one of the interesting things is you have been basically interchangeable with youth football. There are a lot of other, I'll call them knockoffs, a lot of pretenders.
Yep.
How do you protect the brand?
We are very protective of the name and our marks. Our rules changes that we've made to make the game safer, and a lot of our infrastructure is widely copied. There's an awful lot, particularly in youth football, there's an awful lot of independent leagues that people say, oh, especially with our safety rules, you have too many rules. We don't want to play with too many rules. So we're going to go over here and play by our own rules or no rules in some cases.
Well, but give me an example. So you have rules relative to water breaks at high temperatures, practice minimizing, and all the kind of things that people aspire to.
Yeah, we've always had an age-weight schematic in place. We have mandatory limits on practice time. We do have required water breaks. We have mandatory play, no cutting. But then starting in 2010, we started initiating safety rules. We were the first national youth sports organization to initiate our own concussion rule. 2012, we were the first football organization at any level to limit the amount and type of contact allowed in practice, and we've continued to change since then. We have estimated, over those 90 years, an estimated 10 million football alumni, plus several million cheer and dance alumni too, and by the NFL's estimate, about 65 to 70% of current NFL players started in Pop Warner.
John, you've emerged as a national spokesman on a lot of these issues relative to safety and concussions and everybody. Speaking about not just youth football, but youth sports. Talk about it a bit.
Well, in a very low-key manner, almost all the other sports organizations also have issues with concussions. The media has chosen to focus solely on football, but I saw the other day that, without naming names, that a good-sized NBG has a class action suit against them now because they have not instituted safety protocols for concussion and not made any changes to make their sport safer.
Speaking of, let's go to safety, then we'll come back. We're on that topic. Working with the NFL, Roman Oben is a person who we've interviewed, very committed to youth sports and safety as well. The NFL, I know, has their Heads Up program and all of those various things they're doing. So talk about the relationship.
No, we work very closely with them and also with USA Football. My attitude, even when I first started this job, is that all of us in football should be pulling the same direction in the same time. And it's happening more these days than it was then. I still wish it was more universal.
Talk about the numbers. They're prolific numbers. First football, then we'll talk about cheer.
Okay. We have about 225,000 young football players. By age, they run from 5 to 15. It's kind of a bell-shaped curve. So the core group are the so-called tweens, the 8 to 12-year-olds.
And what about the cheer side?
We've got about 100,000 cheerleaders and dancers, and if you could be down here with us this week, it gets awfully loud in there, but they're having a blast.
By the way, I just want to tell you, we'll talk about the event itself, but John used to be able to use both arms with equal alacrity. Now, because he shakes how many hands and give out how many trophies?
Well,
thousands.
Tons of trophies, that's for sure.
Plus, he's not as young as he used to be. But all seriousness, John is the face of all of this, and it is interesting. You've been executive director for how many years?
27 now.
So, fondest memory, one example. Give us, when you look back, what do you think about?
A couple things that we are collectively very proud of. First of all, when we started working here with Disney and what is now ESPN, Wide World of Sports, the first year we took that over was the first year we ran our own national championships, and it was a blast, and it continues to be a blast. We have about 10,000 young athletes participating here this week. Second of all, we were able to start a college scholarship program through our academic All-American program, and we've now given close to $2 million in college scholarships. The annual highlight for me is during this week, the Wednesday night party when Disney actually closes Animal Kingdom theme park, and we have a private Pop Warner party for about 15,000 people. Only our closest friends.
Only your closest friends who take away a lifetime experience in that one day, and it's just incredible to watch those kids run around. It may be the first time they've been to the Disney complex, unless they've been to this event before, and of course you manufacture that as well. Talk a little bit about the other part of Pop Warner, which is the alumni base, numbers and people who swear by Pop Warner when they're playing.
We have estimated, over those 90 years, an estimated 10 million football alumni, plus several million cheer and dance alumni too. And by the NFL's estimate, about 65 to 70% of current NFL players started in Pop Warner. We actually have pictures of Nick Foles in his days in Central Texas.
Yeah, we've seen those pictures, and one of the things that's interesting too is it transcends. It's not just football players, but it's Marco Rubio, it's politicians, it's successful businessmen and women from the cheer side as well.
Absolutely.
You got to be very proud of that part of the organization.
No, it was interesting. I was talking to a couple local sheriff's deputies last night who were over just helping to keep security, and one of them said, you have to be proud of exactly that, of how many people have been positively affected by Pop Warner. And it's amazing the number of business people I meet, and they say, what do you do? And I tell them, and they say, I was a star running back on my 8th grade team.
Yeah. And you're not going to say, no, you weren't. You're going to say, well, welcome to the family, basically.
Well, and in some cases, they stop growing or they realize that football is not the sport for them, but at least they got a taste of it at a younger age. Football right now, particularly in Pop Warner, is safer than it's ever been.
Where is Pop Warner going in the next 5-10 years? And maybe the easier question, the harder question is, where is youth football going in the next 5-10 years?
Well, I think right now one of the challenges is, and I say this on behalf of all the doctors in our medical advisory committee, the media headlines are far, far in front of the reality of research into CTE and concussions. And unfortunately, you know, the name of the game with media these days is who can get it up there fastest, and forget fact checking or anything else, which is unfortunate because it creates a false impression. Football right now, particularly in Pop Warner, is safer than it's ever been, between the equipment improvements and probably even more importantly, our mandatory coaching education. We're going back, ironically, to teaching blocking and tackling the way it was taught 40 or 45 years ago.
Yeah, and independent of the safety issue, which I know you deal with every day and have a handle on, the values of Pop Warner cheer and football, leadership, teamwork, consensus building, just talk about that a bit.
Absolutely. I think both football and cheerleading are, I won't say unique, but very unusual compared to a lot of other youth sports, because if every athlete doesn't do his or her job every play, something bad happens, or at least nothing good happens. Versus if you play youth basketball, you get a star player, you run an isolation play, he's all on his own. Baseball, you get a star pitcher, and everybody picks daisies in the outfield. In football, all 11 guys have to do it. And cheerleading, they better, or something bad's going to happen.
And you've been doing this, as you said, for a number of years. You look better than you ever have. You look healthier than you ever have, brighter than you ever have. What's next for John Butler, and how long do we have you in this role?
I don't know. I will tell you, much as it gets frustrating with some of the issues we deal with, it is a very fulfilling position, and I love that. I had been a big brother through Big Brother, Big Sister for a number of years, and had to give that up. But I feel like Big Brother to 325,000 boys and girls.
Final question about the power of sports. That's been a kind of a mantra of ours for a long time. What is it about sports that creates such an ability to evoke emotion and the ability to use it as a platform to make some major social changes? Why is sports so powerful?
I think in general, people want to be active. Most kids want to run around, have a good time, be with their friends. At the younger ages, that's the number one reason they go out for a particular sport, is to participate with their friends. And I think it requires a tremendous amount of passion, particularly as you get older, to really enjoy it and do the work involved in playing any sport.
You're the best. John Butler, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Don't shake anymore. Do you have a trophy? Do you have a trophy for me? More from Pop Warner in a moment. But first, let's check in with our friends at US Polo ASSN. This month, a player who fell in love with the sport and is now providing opportunities for others to do the same. Megan Gracida played college volleyball and was a professional player on the beach volleyball circuit before meeting one of the greatest polo players in history, Memo Gracida, 5 years ago.
When I met Memo, I had literally no writing background. I actually knew nothing about him. It just became part of our life. It's really a special thing because we get to share that passion together, and horses have changed my life completely.
A passion for riding turned into a passion for playing the sport of polo.
And I'm extremely competitive, but there's not just the partnership and the teamwork with your teammates, but there's also the horse side of it. And there is no other sport like it. I'm very fortunate to be on amazing horses that allow me to do more than I'm probably even aware of.
Gracida's love of the sport has turned into a leadership role with the primary goal of providing more opportunities for women to play polo.
I've found a lot of amazing women who are extremely talented both on the field and off the field. So it's been incredible for me to be involved in the sport. During COVID, I started the Ladies Polo League, which we do every Friday. But also, when Memo and I moved to California, I started the Sunny Hale Invitational. 2017 is the year Sunny passed, And that summer I started it just as a positive way for women to play polo, but it's still really competitive. It turned into this awesome memory and way to honor Sunny. All of these women have really paved the way for all of us, and I see all of these young girls getting into it, and it's amazing because they feel so empowered. It's a positive environment for them. So I think women's polo as a whole is just going to continue to climb.
Now back to Pop Warner when we check in with the Southeast Region Commissioner, Ricky Wright. Your official title with Pop Warner is the Football Commissioner for the Southeast Region.
Yes, sir.
So explain what you do around Pop Warner on a yearly basis.
So my area of responsibility is to gather all those teams as we start to move towards the regional playoffs and kind of get that organized. Our group of football teams are champions within their own leagues, and then I set up their schedule. We get ready to manage the playoffs, usually the first part of November, and then throughout December we get here and then we play in these championship games. So it's scheduling, is facilitating any issues, and making sure everyone stays on track during the playoff season.
You lay down the law, basically.
I'm the one who makes sure the rules are followed.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's just what I said. He lays down the law. That's the deal. But your story is even more compelling as it relates to Pop Warner. You've had no son in the organization. You didn't play high school or you didn't play college or pro ball. What motivated you to get involved in Pop Warner?
You know, as a youngster in high school, probably around the 10th grade, I started coaching baseball and basketball, and then we started a local Pop Warner program in 1988.
Where?
And in Palaca, Florida.
Right, okay.
So we started that program down in Putnam County, and from there it just grew. And I've always had a passion for educating children and being a part of growing them. And Pop Warner is just another one of those avenues. And from then on, from an association level from a coaching to an association level to a league level, and then to a regional level.
Now you've been in the sheriff's office for over 20 years, basically.
Got over 35 years in this business. Yes.
What happened in the last 15? So over 35 years.
Yes, sir.
And frankly, you understand what teamwork is all about.
Absolutely. And
you have the ability to understand what's important and what not. In that context, why is Pop Warner so important to the lives of kids?
So for me, it's not all about football for me, because we're building young men and young women. So in the event that these young men and women, it helps them to learn teamwork, but leadership skills. Right. And for a law enforcement officer, I want to let them know that we're there to help. So it's not always that bad thing we're trying to deal with them. We want to deal with them in a positive environment. And for us, that's what it's all about. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
Structurally, a lot of discussion about Pop Warner. The brand has been tremendous. We've interviewed John Butler. It's all compelling. A lot of discussions about safety, and more important, I guess, to the future, there are a lot of parents, individual decisions, who will say, we're not going to let our kids play football because it's too dangerous. We saw this movie or that movie. What's your take on all that?
Well, it is a family decision. Yeah. And contact football is not for everyone. Right. It's about team building. That's really what the sport is about. Now, fundamentals is what we want to concentrate on. And when you get up in the high school and college level, then things change. But at this level, we really should be teaching fundamentals and teaching children how to grow as individuals, not necessarily making them champions when they're 5.
So the growing on the field is one set of skills.
Yes.
But the growing off the field is quite another.
Yes. So if you think about what happens, so I always talk about at the end of an awards presentation, it's easy to do the right thing when parents are with you.
Yeah.
What are you going to do when your parents are not looking?
Right.
And that's what I'm trying to teach them. Do the right thing when no one is looking. So we're trying to build children to be young men and young women, not just to win football games.
You've had a great career with Pop Warner. Give us kind of your favorite story or moment you've had with the organization.
I think for me, it's those kids you really remember their face but not their name. And when you walk in the grocery store and they holler, "Hey, coach," and they now are adults with children of their own, and they're smiling, they're saying, "How are you doing? Thank you for what you did." That's why you're in this. That's why I'm here. And that's a favorite part of what this is all about for me.
Finally, Ricky Wright, tell me where you and this organization and Pop Warner and youth football are in, let's say, 5 to 10 years.
I think we're progressing. We continue to correct any things that are not going well for us, because nothing's perfect. We're learning from our own mistakes. We're improving the sport, but we're also improving how we administer the sport. So it's, again, at the end of the day, it's about growing children, teaching them the fundamentals, and if by some slim chance they make it to the big show, then that's good as well.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Ricky Wright. Last but not least, a former Notre Dame quarterback who is the founder and president of Global Football, Patrick Steenberg. Tell us about Global Football and where you're today.
You know, and I never put together the dates, but in 1997, I just had this idea to give student athletes a chance to travel internationally, to visit other cultures, and to compete in what is known around the world as American football, what we just call football here. And it's been an amazing run. I mean, I've been to 28 countries on 6 continents with youth, high school, and college teams. And then about 10 years ago, John Butler called me, and we had known each other, and he said, "Hey, could you bring some international teams down to Orlando, be part of our Super Bowl?" And we're now year 9 that we've brought international youth teams from around the world, and it keeps expanding. So it's fun to be part of this bigger event.
How hard is it to grow American football in a place where they've not had it as part of their culture?
You know, the great thing now is everybody's got this phone, and they can get the NFL Red Zone on it pretty much anywhere in the world. So kids and people are able to watch the game, get engaged in it. So I think that's helping. You know, and really my job is not so much expanding the game. Mine is more about the education of the kids, giving these kids a chance to travel and visit. We always do camps and clinics wherever we go. We've helped some international student athletes come to America. A kid like Bjorn Werner, who was a first-round draft pick with Indianapolis, I helped him get into a high school in New England after they had contacted me from Europe. So there's a lot of things going on. What's great now is I have more teams globally wanting me to bring teams for games than I have teams ready to travel. So I'm looking to keep, finding teams that want to go, and visit other cultures, meet one another, kind of in the Olympic spirit. And Pop Warner really exemplifies it here in America, and now to be able to do it internationally.
You got a kindred spirit in John Butler, clearly, because you both look for the same things in development and growth and educational standards and what it means to be part of this whole team. Give us an example of how you educate when you go to a country that maybe hasn't had as much football as before. Pick a country and tell us how you do it.
Our most popular country to go visit is Italy. We take 2 or 3 colleges, usually NCAA Division III or NAI schools, every year there. And really, while we're there, we'll have 2 practices, open them up to all the students and young kids who want to come, any of the adults, all the coaches. We'll do a coaches clinic while we're there. We engage the local football guys, and then we're going to church to visit churches, castles, museums, do social efforts, whatever we can do, service works wherever we go, and then we'll always play a game, usually against a host team from international, whether it's the Milan Seamen, you know, the Roma team Gladiatori, or whomever, you know. So it's more education than football, but football is the binding point, you know. And I had a chance when I was young to travel when I was playing at Notre Dame, you know, around America and get to travel as a team. And I just think you learn so much as a team. And these teammates who get to visit, you know, whether they're going to Ireland or Germany or Tanzania, Africa, which we did a few years ago with Drake University, they'll remember that trip and that game for their whole life. To me, you know, we have an important place in the world, and sports plays a really important role. And the competitiveness when they can meet, like today, you know, I got kids out here from Panama playing against kids from Finland. They know nothing about each other's cultures. Well, tonight they're going to be at the pool, you know, out there at the hotel mixing and talking and, you know, jiving and doing all that. That to me is the little bit we can do for the world through sports.
You've got it, Peter Steenberg. You've got an incredible organization. Thank you very much. Really
Great.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it.